Good morning, everyone. This is Nikachu, Merfolk Master, and we are here with day 92 of Coffee and MTG. Oh, yes, the morning talk show where you brew up some coffee, you ask questions, and I'm going to give answers. And also, the community can help chime in, and let's have a great discussion about Magic. And also, we do Decklist review. I've been told that this is the mecca of deck innovation and deck building. Who else is doing this? Who else takes your deck lists and take them to the next level? Give feedback from the community. If you need help moving your deck in the right direction, what cards are missing? What cards you don't even know that exist that can help fill the void of your archetype? You list them here and we review them. So the first half, we do Q&A. Second half, we do deck list review. Brew up your cup of coffee or whatever cup of magic you have or what you like. I love my coffee. You know, I'm huge fan of coffee, huge fan of corporate producer of coffee that we don't talk about anymore, but huge fan of them. Not going to mention their name. They don't sponsor me. Other people have sponsored me and have been very happy with the sponsorship. They lost the coffee sponsor, lost the sponsor. They're going to have to like ask McDonald's for some sponsorship. But okay, with all that aside, yes, let us have a great discussion of coffee, of legal drugs. Yes, coffee is my favorite legal drug, basically in existence. Good morning, Kyoka620. Yes, this is the morning crowd. Realny 5, Satamane, and Pancher Nandez. Good morning. So yes, remember, if you want to join the show, you want to be part of the action live, you can find me at twitch.tv/NikachuMTG, and we do this Monday to Friday, 9 o'clock a.m. Central Standard Time. So you have to convert it. Just use Google. Google is a very smarty pants for those sort of conversions. Where's my branding? There's my branding. All right. So I'm still a little under the weather, and I'm like 95% certain at this point that it is because of allergies, seasonal allergies. And I was actually told the farmers are farming and harvesting right now, and the dust from the crops are like blowing into the city. And I never thought about that because I always get like sort of sick around this time of the year. But I guess it makes sense. It makes sense. I don't know. Maybe I'm allergic to wheat dust or something like that. So yes, let's all go have some fun as we usually do. Remember, if you have any questions, 3 question marks before the question, 3 question marks after the question, or you can go at NikachuMTG. Helps me find your questions and comments through the sea of comments that people are going to have. That and that. Grim Ducky, good morning. I want to hear more about your thought on our mana base compared to other tribal decks. Great question. I actually think Merfolk, so Grim Ducky is referring to Merfolk, and I believe that Merfolk has hands down like the most clunky mana base out of all the tribal decks, like not even close. So I'm just going to go to, okay, I'll go to Goldfish. I just hope it's easy to find the metagames, the decks that I'm looking for. Metagame. So okay, so here's the deal. A Merfolk deck has 4 Ether Vial, 20 lands. Now, the 4 Vial don't actually, they're mana sources. Make no mistake about that. They're mana sources, but they cannot be tapped for mana immediately. That's an investment you have to wait for. So where are we? Here's Merfolk. No decks? BS. Okay, so I do believe, this one is actually running 21 lands. Who's the last? This is, submitted by Saffron Olive. That's great. Maybe he's ahead of the curve. Am I in budget decks? I am in budget decks. Oops. How do I get out of budget decks? I'm trapped. What city do I live in? I live in Winnipeg. Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. Let's go to Modern. Okay, let's view more. View more of the real decks. Okay, Merfolk. Okay, so Merfolk has 20 lands here. I don't know how well people can see it. Well, we can zoom in. So we have a 20 land mana base plus 4 Ether Vial. What that implies is that we have 24 mana sources to cast our spells. Looks fine at first, but the problem is Ether Vial is like really clunky. A lot of people like to give the argument, oh, Ether Vial is like Soul Ring, it's busted. No, it's not. you really, the investment of waiting several turns to be able to use the mana is a very real investment / liability, the way you want to look at it in Modern, because you can be close to dead by turn 3. So especially on the draw, if you keep a 2-lander with any deck, you might be fine. But if you keep a 1-land, 1 Ether Vial hand with Merfolk, and you have nothing really to do on turn 2 because you only have 1 land still in play and 1 Ether Vial, and you're waiting for your Vial to get on 2, you can be just completely crushed out of the game. So the one unique thing that I observed between like this Ether Vial deck and other Ether Vial decks, we have the least number of mana sources. So Merfolk plays with 20 mana sources on average. And I've experimented with going up on it, but it only works if I play with more creature lands, with like Fairy Conclave, because if it's just random lands, it doesn't work. The deck has just too much air. It's really important to pack it with threat density, like all these random Grizzly Bears, in order to make it work. But it's a very clunky mana base. Now let's look at humans. So that's Merfolk. Let's look at humans now. Humans is going to be somewhere here. Here we go, humans. Now, humans, in comparison, has actually... So we see 4 Ether Vial, 19 lands. Looks like less, but they're actually running Noble Hierarch. Now, that's another mana source. So they, in fact, are playing with 27 mana sources, not 24. They have 3 more mana sources. They have 3 more mana sources than Merfolk does. And I'm like, okay, but that makes sense. They're trying to be, like, really ultra aggro. They're not trying to be tempo or anything. But then I took it a little bit further, and I remember... Spirits is in this... Bant Spirits, at least at the time, was in the same way. They played with the Noble Hierarchs. Okay, what about Death and Taxes? Where's the Death and Taxes deck? Crabvine. Is it white? Probably it's white. No, this is not representative. This is also this is another... This is not really Death and Taxes. It's like... I mean, I guess you could say it's like Hate Bears or whatever. Again, however, in this 4 Noble Hierarch in your Ether Vial deck. And I'm not saying Noble Hierarch works in Merfolk, because it doesn't. I've play tested it a lot. Is it white-green? No, this is the Titan Vial deck. Okay, let's zoom out so I can find... Where's the Death and Taxes deck? It should be just like white-red or mono-white or something like that. Here, let's even look at... Let's look at Spirits, actually. How does this, like, regular... So they actually take the Merfolk approach with 20 lands, 4 Vial, if you're just going to be pure blue-white. But also very low in the metagame. Very, very low in the metagame. Let's look at Eldrazi Taxes. 22 lands in Eldrazi Taxes. Sure, it's a higher curve, but still, 22 lands. Make no mistake, like, Merfolk has played 4 drops before. So 4 Ether Vial, 22 lands. But I want to see a traditional Death and Taxes deck. I believe, and because the traditional Death and Taxes deck doesn't really have a high curve. Here, I think it's this. No, it's not. Maybe it's this? No. This is annoying. How can I find... I'm trying to look for a Death and Taxes list. My kingdom for Death and Taxes. Or is it here and it's just one of the other decks? No, I think this is a completely different deck. Where do I find Death and... Can someone say... Okay, I'm just going to look up Death and Taxes. Death and Taxes Modern. I'll just look up some random person's list. I don't care. This is... good enough. Again, 22 lands. 22 lands. This is a Ghost... Now, make no mistake, it's a Ghost Quarter Tectonic Edge deck. This is really old, though, 2016. Lord Magicus is here to save the day. With what looks like a more updated list. This looks very updated. Lands, 23. 23 lands. They're playing Horizon lands. They're playing with Field of Ruin, Ghost Quarter, but 23 lands in their Ether Vial deck. And anyway, Just an observation. And I know from my perspective, Merfolk can feel really, really clunky very often. The Merfolk can feel super clunky, but I mean, this is just an observation that like almost every other Ether Vial deck plays more lands than Merfolk does. Helps them curve out, and yeah, they're utility lands, but maybe Merfolk can play some more utility lands. Maybe we can play like Field of Ruin in the place of like some creatures. I don't know, but like anyway, I know the deck feels pretty clunky, and I've just sort of lived with it. But maybe it could be better if we have more mana sources, like in the form of lands, or even that new the new mirror, the new shapeshifter land card. Who knows? Who knows? Anyway, that's just my observation with Merfolk, that we are a very clunky. We have the lowest mana sources of all the Ether Vial decks, because make no mistake, if you're stuck on one land, or you're on the or even you're from the play with in any situation where you have one land in Ether Vial, your hand is like super clunky and is almost worth a mulligan. Getting ready to play standard Nikachu? No, absolutely. I'm not a standard player. There has been very little standard content ever on any of my channels. I once played Mono Blue Tempo because I really did like that deck on MTG Arena, but then it got obliterated when Teferi Time Raveler got printed, and then that was the end of that. We did not really play much standard after that. Pan Hernandez, what kind of card do you think or need that will push Simic Merfolk into tier 1? That is a very good question. Honestly, I think we need just a little bit of a metagame shift. I would really prefer that these Lurrus Prowess decks go to hell, and then we might have a really good shot of going to tier 1. Right now, I feel really good about my Simic list. I feel really, really good about Simic, and we're going to play Simic later today. But like even in the face of a Blood Moon metagame, it seems to be performing very well. So I actually don't think it needs too much in order to go to tier 1. Again, maybe a better 1-drop. Commander Speaker is fine. Like it's fine. That's why I'm playing with Simic. It's not bad. I think Benthic Biomancer is bad. Commander Speaker is fine. If we could have a better 1-drop, or even play with more 1-drops, kick out like, I don't know, Merfolk Mistbinder for more powerful 1-drops. Maybe that's a direction we have to go. Or maybe a very good replacement to Dismember. That's going to be really hard to replace because you don't want to bounce something. So what can you play for a single blue that would disrupt creatures effectively like Dismember without paying life? Or maybe a better mana base so that we can use Dismember without losing life, without ruining our own mana base at the same time. Don't know what that looks like, but anyway, I think Merfolk is in good shape right now. We're getting more 5-0s than we ever have in a very long time. So Merfolk overall, I think, is doing quite well. So to say what we need to push it to tier 1 is just maybe more proficient pilots breaking out in the open events, which I'm trying to play on a regular basis. But like I said, the Mono Red Prowess matchup is very brutal, very, very difficult. So I want that list to disappear. You know what? Also, it might help if Eldrazi-tron disappears. That would help. So, or not, it disappears, but let's say you ban Karn the Great Creator and really chop the legs off of Eldrazi-tron, and more stupid, because Eldrazi-tron, one way or another, with Chalice of the Void, is holding back a lot of decks like Infect. Not holding back Prowess, because Prowess is now adapted to Chalice of the Void very well. But if Chalice of the Void was main deckable, that might help. And if there were more decks vulnerable to it, like Bogles and Infect, and maybe other stupid decks, then we could utilize it better and get a lot of free wins. Moving to Winnipeg soon, still in the US, but right on the border. Oh, so you must be like, were you in Fargo or something? Minneapolis? I don't know. Well, Minneapolis is pretty far away from the border, but it feels pretty close for Winnipeg. Welcome. I don't know what you're getting. I don't know if you know what you're getting yourself into. Winnipeg is an absolute. Okay, well, I've never said many nice things about Winnipeg. We'll just say that. But well, enjoy when you come here. How's the chat? How is everyone doing today? Mike the Mailman, I'm doing great. And by the way, you subbed to me the other day, Mike the Mailman, and I didn't know you left a message. I watch you more than Netflix. You deserve this sub. Thank you very much, Mike the Mailman. And if you are if you do consider me your Netflix, give me the Netflix money. Give me your Twitch Prime at the very least. Well, I guess I guess the thing is, if you're a part of Prime, then you might not be part of Netflix. Rolling Vortex versus Skullcrack. Which one is better than for burn? Probably both. Skullcrack is just like, where are we at? Hold on, let's look at. I think that's the new Sulfuric Vortex. Roiling Vortex. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, Roiling Vortex deals 1 damage to them. Whenever a player casts a spell, if no mana was spent to cast that spell, it deals 5 damage to them. That's very powerful. Your opponents can't gain life this turn. I get the sense that this is not a main deckable card. I could be wrong. Burn will definitely playtest it. If it is main deckable, then it replaces Skullcrack. If it's not, then it goes on the sideboard, and you probably still want to play Skullcrack to some extent. Because this is like a 3-mana Skullcrack that doesn't deal that much damage. I most certainly would not be putting your Skullcracks away. That's for sure. Deals with Creeping Chill pretty cleanly, right? Creeping Chill from the graveyard. Deal 3 damage, gain 3 life. No. You take 5 damage. So you only actually gain nothing. But instead of gaining 3 life, you take 2 life. So this is going to be a huge game changer. This is going to be a game changer, by the way. This card is actually incredibly good, and I think red mages have been crying for it doesn't get cast if it's milled. Well, so what if it's... Hold on. Oh, is that true? Okay, hold on. That might be true. When Creeping Chill is put in your graveyard, you may exile it. Okay, so sometimes the cards say you may exile it and cast it from exile. This is not the case. Okay, so Creeping Chill, you're safe. You're safe, you son of a bitch. But for everything else, Roiling Vortex is still going to be good. Yeah, you can prevent the gain life, but you actually can't actually take advantage of it. So I'm mistaken there. I can't keep track of the cards that go to exile and then do their effect, or go to exile and then get cast from exile. For example, like Bring to Light exiles a card. Search your library for a creature, instant, sorcery card with convert mana cost, blah blah blah. Exile that card, then shuffle your library. And then you may cast that card without paying its mana cost. It's hard to keep track of this stuff. But yeah, Roiling Vortex is still going to be a game changer. I'm going to take a good guess that Skullcrack is still going to be like a mainstay card, just because Burn doesn't want to take time to get the investment out of Roiling Vortex, and you have to hold up mana to prevent them from gaining life. That is just going to be very annoying to do. But on the other hand, this definitely will be a good sideboard card to bring in. I mean, Burn doesn't always main deck Skullcrack either. You know, they put in the sideboard. So this might, in the situations where Skullcrack goes to the sideboard, maybe this will replace it. But we'll have to wait and see. Definitely looks like a game changer type of card. Looks really good. Historic Arena? We are not doing any Historic Arena. Not for a while, or maybe, I don't know if you're asking somebody else, but we are going to be playing more Modern, because that's what the analytics say. That's what the viewers say. More people show up for that stuff. So I gotta be led by the viewers. Grim Ducky says, I've been to Winnipeg once. That is impressive, because a lot of people say they haven't. In the middle of winter, that was enough for me. Yes, I have to live in that. I have to live through that. I mean, if anyone wants to know what Winnipeg is like, I mean, I'm just going to look up Hoth. Let's just look up images of Hoth from Star Wars. I mean, it's basically this. But instead of these machines, there's like, I don't know, mailboxes. I mean, this looks exact. This is home sweet home right here. I literally look at, like, out the window and look at this sort of crap. You know, like the snow is like up to the stop sign, and it's like so frigid cold outside, and you can just tell like it's death by winter out there. A lot less Wookiees in Winnipeg, Manitoba, but like everything else looks very similar. Yeah. This is definitely the I don't know what the temperature is in Hoth, but I imagine it's very similar to what's going on in Winnipeg here. Anyone from Winnipeg can confirm. I would really appreciate it. Oh, Jace the Mind Sculptor versus Teferi Master of Time and Blue-Black Fairies. Probably just Jace the Mind Sculptor. It's just a more powerful card advantage spell, and will just ultimately like win you the game if you're on an empty board. Jace, with the thing about Jace the Mind Sculptor, which is great, is on an empty board, Jace wins the game. If the board state is at parity, you play Jace and it's unanswered, you just win. You will gain 2 cards a turn. You can start manipulating the top of your opponent's deck. They are not coming back from that. It's devastating. Whereas Teferi Master of Time, like, it's a good card and whatever. But, I mean, it doesn't win the game on the spot. I mean, you draw a card, you discard a card. It's card selection, not card advantage. I guess the phasing creature thing out is like pretty good, but the ultimate is pretty useless. Take 2 extra turns after this one. Although I think you can get to it relatively well. Or maybe not. I would just still go, like, especially even in a fairies deck, I think there's a lot more room to manipulate Jace the Mind Sculptor with your fairies. Like, you can bounce your own creatures back to your hand, whether it's Spellstutter Sprite or Snapcaster Mage or any of your champion fairies, Vendilion Click to get more effects out of it. Well, I don't know if you really want to bounce the Vendilion Click, but whatever. You have more utility with Jace the Mind Sculptor. As with Teferi Master of Time, I don't think you have it. Do you like the Merfolk that steals artifact? I think it's really good. I do like it, but the more I think about it, the more I think that it's going to be used by our enemies. It's going to be like Emery. So it's called Thieving Skydiver. It's going to have utility. It's going to be part of the toolbox for Merfolk, but like, we definitely can't main deck this thing. There's just not enough artifacts out there. And it's nice that it's a 2/1 flyer. That's great. Well, I don't know. Maybe I'll play it and find out there's like way more artifacts to steal than I think. But yeah, I can't take a Mishra's Bauble because our opponent can just sacrifice it in response. Yeah, I don't think there's nearly enough artifacts to take. Like, some people say you can take Amulet, but let's be serious. The moment our opponent will almost always play, what they usually do is play turn 1 tap land, turn 2 play Amulet, followed by like a bounce land, add 2 mana, play a Boreal Grazer, replay the bounce land, put Dryad of the Elysian Grove, put more lands on the battlefield, and like, now you're super far behind. And if you take the Amulet, next turn they play Primeval Titan, it doesn't matter. My fear is that this is going to be brought in by Control. I don't know if they really want this card, but some sort of control deck, and then they steal our Ether Vial, and they have a 2/1 creature on the battlefield, which, by the way, gets pumped up by our Lord of Atlantis. That's my fear. My fear right now is actually this is going to be more effective to control decks that want to steal artifacts. Anyway, that's just my fears at the moment. My school started, so I'm not able to watch anymore. Thanks for all the help on my deck. I will watch the replays. You're welcome. You can always, by the way, watch the replays on Nikachu MTG streams. Let's see if we show up on Google yet. I do not. Don't rank on Google yet. Do I have to do it separately? Hold on. This is sad. Okay, hold on. YouTube. I'm not popular enough. This channel is not popular enough yet to rank on. There we go. So thank you very much, everyone who's subscribed so far to Nikachu MTG streams. So this is where you can find all the replays and also daily Merfolk content, basically now. I'm going back to the 1 game a day. I will still have like one super long stream. You see here, this one's 2 hours and 39. This one over here at the top left, 2 hours, 39 minutes. But not everyone can watch that stuff. It's like impossible. So if you want to watch, if you can't see the whole show, you can find the replay on Nikachu MTG streams. And this is the new home of all this stuff. Nikachu MTG. So it's like, just remember Nikachu MTG, but put streams at the end. And soon I'm now eligible for, I don't know how, but I'm now eligible for live streaming on this channel, and I'll be monetized in about 136 more subscribers. So thank you very much for everyone subscribing to the new channel. And it looks like it's doing okay. It's doing fine. Actually, everyone has adopted and adapted to it very well without hurting my main channel. So I was talking about Creeping Chill being a spell, and this is like fake news Nikachu. Oh, it's not the first time I've made fake news. Mike the Mailman, real talk. Are you a Jets fan? I don't watch hockey at all. Sorry, hockey people. I have no idea what's going on in that game. You know, I was with Day 2 Dryden and Rodney Tope Thompson watching a game, and I was commentating it in a way that they felt like I was talking about the game like my brother talks about Magic. So the goalie has their hands over the puck, and then the referee, blows the whistle, and I'm like, why did they blow the whistle? What's the problem? Let them gash at let them use their hockey stick to try to get it from the goalie. Like, keep the game going on. Why does the referee have to blow the whistle so often? So much irrelevant whistle blowing. So anyway, that's how I felt. Anyway, that just shows how much of a pony I am when it comes to hockey. I barely know the rules. Like, I know you have to get the puck in the net, and I understand the concept of icing. They got to pass to each other through the zones, and that's about it. That's when I'm done. I don't know any hockey players. The most famous hockey player I know is like Wayne Gretzky. That's all I know. So Dan Man-Game was referring to Thieving Skydiver and says, don't worry, they'll take our vial. Yeah, and I don't want that to happen. I don't want them to take our vial. Also, it's not the only artifact at risk. They can also they will force us to crack Relic of Progenitus. And that's assuming I have mana up. If I don't have mana up, they will just steal my Relic of Progenitus and actually draw a card off of it. So, yeah, so there's actually, Thieving Skydiver is actually a larger than I would like to think threat to us than it is to a lot of our opponents. I'm sure there's going to be metagames where like Thieving Skydiver is going to be awesome, but fact of the matter is it's not an artifact metagame right now. I like this diver very much. Maybe Colossal Hammer, not for modern, attacking and flinging or something. Everyone's like talking about Colossal Hammer, but the problem with Colossal Hammer is like, well, there's a lot of problems with First off, if you don't have Thieving Skydiver out, this card is garbage. It's just terrible. It's a 1 mana do nothing card. It's literally 1 mana and it will sit on the battlefield and do nothing. Here's a great question. Niels Nielsen asked, if you don't like hockey, what sports are you into? Chess, Magic. I consider these mind games to be sports. I mean, they're sports of the brain. That's why like esports are like booming, because people who like, I mean, it's essentially a game that people like to spectate and watch. So I'm much more into the mental games category than the physical games category. Aside from that, I'm not really big into the physical sports or even watching any of them. Not big into it. I mean, once in a while, I don't mind watching Federer do his thing in tennis because it's pretty impressive what he does at such an old age. But outside of that, I don't watch any physical sports. Just mental sports. Chess, Magic the Gathering. I've watched Scrabble before. That actually was pretty entertaining. You would think using up all your tiles in one shot was rare, but when you watch a world championship match, it is not rare. They are just constantly throwing those haymakers out there. I'm like, how on earth are they doing this? This is impossible. You know, I used to watch poker, but I'm just so much out of the game now that I don't watch it anymore. And like, you know, I mean, when I used to watch tournament poker, it was like really fun and awesome at first, but then it was very uninteresting. And I don't know. I don't know if there are any more cash game shows that are interesting anymore. Back then, High Stakes Poker was like a really good show. It was very entertaining to watch. Would you swim with an orca? I don't even know what that is. What is an orca? Wait, a whale? You want me to swim with a whale? This looks like it's going to kill me. This looks like a killer whale. Orca that carried dead calf for 17 days. That's obsessed. It's cute, though. I'll give it that. No. No, I will not. All right, so we're at the halfway point. So what you can do is, well, actually, at the halfway point, I better just mention my sponsors, themanabase.com, your home base for everything Magic the Gathering. Learn about Commander, Modern, Pioneer, Standard, and more at the Manabase. And also, don't forget that the Manabase is sponsored by Fusion Gaming Online, and Fusion Gaming. Their deal of the week this week is 20% off all from the Vault singles and sealed products. So if you need your like Jace the Mind Sculptors, Grove of the Burn Willows, because you speculate that Punishing Fire are going to come off the reserve list, Ether Vial is in there. You can get 20% off at Fusion Gaming Online, FusionGamingOnline.com. Or you can just Google Fusion Gaming, it'll definitely show up. And we're also going to thank Mana Traders. Mana Traders is the premier place to rent Magic cards online to help you play any format, any deck, anytime. And you can support the channel by using my Mana Traders link in the description below, or you can subscribe to their service and get 20% off your first 3 months using my coupon code Nikachu. So we're going to thank Mana Traders for being our sponsor. It's probably the best outlet for playtesting the crazy brews that we see on this channel. So if you want to get your deck list reviewed, where is it? Deck review. Go !deck review space. Put the URL where your deck is. And you can leave any comments. Useful comments for me are like the format. What do you need help against? Is it budget? That helps a lot. If you're on a budget, like I've seen some tribal decks, and where's the Cavern of Souls? Where's the Ether Vial? Well, of course, it's a budget deck, so you're not going to have those things included. But that helps me if you want. If you want useful feedback, and also let me know especially if you've play tested the deck before. This is even more useful if you've play tested your deck before. What matchups are you having trouble against? What do you need help for? Because like a 75 just as like a brood idea is one thing, but all the successful decks you see in the metagame, they were an idea tweaked by science. And you can't get that science unless you actually play test your deck. So there's no way around it. You can theorize what should be the correct list, what should be a 4x, what should be a 2x, what should have in the sideboard. But actually playtesting your deck in the field is the best way to actually know what direction it needs to move in, because you need to know what are you beating, what are you not beating, and then tweak the numbers from there. So I understand like a lot of these deck lists have probably never been. Let me know. Have you actually playtested your deck? I'm curious. What percentage of these decks are just complete theory, and what percentage actually has been in the field? Who's been in the trenches with their archetype? Oh yeah, reminder, no EDH decks. I cannot... First off, I'm not going to go through all 100 cards. I don't even know what the best EDH cards are. I was being coached by my patrons how to help I was actually coached by Ross here. How to make an EDH, how to make my EDH deck. I have no idea what the EDH cards are available. Like, it's a completely foreign world to me. There's all sorts of cards that have spiked in value in EDH. I have no idea, because I didn't even know it's a card that I should be paying attention to. Like, what's it called? Training Grounds. Like, what the hell is this? This is like a $40-something card. 43 US? Are you kidding me? For this pile of garbage? I mean, from a competitive standpoint, I mean, this looks like pure hot trash. I would never touch this card. But $43, thanks to Commander, because it's it's a unique card. 1 mana, not bad. It would make my Thassa activations cost 1 instead of 2. All right, so let's get into deck list review time to help you take your... And who else does this? What other channel takes your lists in the moment, live, and gives you feedback on the spot? Everything goes infinite with Basalt Monolith. That seems like a card that should be banned. Infinite combos all around. Training Grounds, I remember the days before the Scarab God. Okay, so we've got Realny 5's Decklist has been chosen. This is somewhat budget. I have not play tested it before. Thanks for your honesty. Goodbye, Orcas. Goodbye, 75% upgraded Tron. So, Stonecoil Serpent, random one of Sundering Titan, 2 Walking Ballista, 2 World Breaker, 2 Wormcoil Engine, 4 Chromatic Sphere, Star, Expedition Map, 1 Oblivion Stone. Do Tron decks play 1 Oblivion Stone? This is 7 mana. This is... I think... Okay, we'll get through the whole list. Ancient Stirring, Sylvan Scrying, Blast Zone, Forest, Urza's Mine, Power Plant, blah, 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 blah. Karn the Great Creator, Ugin, Damping Sphere. You have your own Damping Sphere? What? Huh? This nails your lands too, you know that, right? Or does it? If a land, yeah, it hits you too. Oh, whatever. If it seems like a very suspect card to have in your sideboard. I'm not exactly sure. I mean, you know what? If it hurts the decks that you're trying to beat more than it hurts you, you know what, Hot Chocolate? This is a great spot where you just dump the matchup. If you can't beat Storm, you just can't beat Storm. By the way, there are some tools that, like Relic of Progenitus is like the best tool to beat Storm. Yeah, Tron just got to do its Tron things. If it's a hopeless matchup, you don't bring in cards that hurt you that hurt you to like. And by the way, 1 card is not going to defeat Storm. This 1 artifact, not a chance. Not going to happen. You're going to lose to Storm anyway. They will. I don't know what they'll do. Trinisphere hurts Storm, but not Tron. Okay, so that's an option to have over the Damping Sphere. That's possible. Because remember, this is a wish board for the most part, because we are playing with Karn, the Great Creator. So I have a question. Is Oblivion Stone really getting replaced by All Is Dust? Because your best way of beating a Blood Moon is turn 3 Oblivion Stone and then just play land drops, then turn 5 blow everything up. And I'm hearing from the Ponza players is that they actually can't beat Oblivion Stone very well. They're actually having a lot of problems with this card, and we are in a Blood Moon metagame. So I think I would, but I understand what you're trying to do. You want to use All Is Dust because it protects your Planeswalkers. Well, let's look at what like a regular Tron deck looks like right now. So let's go back. MTG Goldfish. Go back to MTG Goldfish. Let's go back to the metagame. I'm just curious. I could be wrong. Maybe they're going down on Oblivion Stone. Whether the Storm is like really iffy, in my opinion. It's not a reliable way of dealing with decks. So like we have again a very similar situation. Interesting. They don't have Oblivion Stone at all. All right. Did Oblivion Stone just disappear off the map? Walking Blister, Wormcoil, Ulamog, Karn the Great Creator, and this just went 5-0. They just said, we're not going to play. Let's look at another list. I'm pretty surprised. Reality, maybe you're ahead of the curve. They don't have sweepers at all. They don't have sweepers. They don't even have All Is Dust. You know what? I guess it just makes sense. If you're going to play with a Planeswalker heavy build of Tron, then you're just not going to be playing with the sweepers. You want to protect your artifacts. And they're just going over the top with all this other stuff. Huh. I'm learning something right now because I never really paid attention to this shift. This list is playing 2 Oblivion Stone. And this only one list. And this went 3-2 in a preliminary. Here's another one with Oblivion Stone, but these are not the most recent ones. Okay, this one, 9th place in a Modern Challenge. 2 Maze Mine Tome. All right, my suggestion actually is dump the last Oblivion Stone. I'm actually pretty surprised. Well, I mean, Ugin is a sweeper, but that's not useful if you're getting Blood Mooned. I mean, you're never going to... It's the same thing with All Is Dust. The convenient thing about beating a Blood Moon is you can go turn 3 Oblivion Stone, make 2 more land drops, and then you blow it up, and then get back to your game. If you're under Blood Moon lock, I mean, you're really locked. I guess the advantage in this list, though, is you still have some game with your Planeswalkers. You can get Karn the Great Creator out. Well, I mean, Ugin is a bit clunky, but it will get out eventually. Okay, so actually my suggestion would now... Your list is not that far off from these lists. Like, and this is not that budget, you know? Like, what is that? What is different? Like, what do you... These lists are not running any sweepers. No All Is Dust. They're just using Ugin as a sweeper. Actually, hold on. Good question. Are they play? Yeah, they're playing Ancient Stirrings and Sylvan Scrying. Because they're still doing stuff like this, what you're doing here. Sort of. I guess some of these are very strange, actually. You don't have that amazing of a Wish package. Or do you? Ensnaring Bridge, Trinisphere, Sundering Titan, Sorcerer's Spyglass. Or I guess so. No, you're doing it. You're doing it. I guess the only case... This is a bit weird. But what could we change? So it appears that they want to put this in the sideboard. In these lists. Let's look at the most successful one. This was a 3-2 in a preliminary. Screw that. This was just a league. Modern League. 3-2 I would actually give more weight to a 3-2 in a preliminary than a 5-0 in a Modern League. This was a 5-0. 3 Walking Ballista, 4 Wormcoil Engine. A lot less creatures than what you're doing. We're not... just a different... Worldbreaker is fine. A different toolbox of creatures. It seems they have Sundering Titan as a wish card. You might as well have it as a wish card in here, I think. This is a somewhat budget Tron deck that still has... What is the budget part of this Tron deck? You're playing with all the expensive cards. Okay, so my suggestions. Remove this. It's really not that impressive, to be honest. Even if you have 1 million mana, you might as well spend 1 million mana on Walking Ballista. Do you have... Oh, you're not playing with Ulamog. Okay, so you need some sort of... Okay, how much is Thought-Knot Seer? You know, just a few Thought-Knot Seers is not bad, even in Tron. It's not... Well, it's some money. It's like 14, a little under $14. Oops, I've got this Ugin as a sweeper just hanging there for the entire time. I just want something more useful around here. Well, I guess you can have this in the main deck if you're... I think you'd prefer to have it as a wish card. I would just replace Stonecoil Serpent with something else. It's just an X for whatever. It can be a big creature if you have a lot of mana to sink into it. I think this would be better off as like... I would like to see 2 Thought-Knot Seers in this deck. It would also help you against... Hold on. Did other people have that Damping Sphere? Just curious. Like, am I really out of the loop here with like how Tron is being played and built right now? Yeah, no one's playing down. They're playing Trinisphere, but this one is slightly more expensive, of course, at $15. But if you're trying to beat like Storm, that is a way better answer. Yeah, no one's using Damping Sphere because that's just going to hurt you way more than it hurts them. True and a liar. I found you on YouTube, but it's a pleasure to find you on Twitch. Thank you very much. Welcome to the channel. So yeah, those are going to be my suggestions. Try to get Thought-Knots here. If not, like the rest of the deck is fine. Just replace the thing you have to do is you have to get rid of Damping Sphere and replace it with anything else in the sideboard, because this just goes against what your deck does. And I guess remove the Oblivion Stone. Just dump it. It has no business in the deck, and you could keep all his dust. I have no problem with this because it still has it's still a good sweeper with everything else you're doing. Because it looks like there are some Tron. There's still Tron decks playing Oblivion Stone, but they're shying away from it. And you know what? I totally see it. I totally understand it now. So before I'm like, let's add Oblivion Stones, and now I'm like, let's dump the Oblivion Stone. Do they have any in the sideboard? They don't even have any in the sideboard as a wish package, even when they clearly have Karn the Great Creator. So anyway, those are my suggestions. I hope they're useful. And after we look at what Tron is doing right now in the metagame, it makes a lot of sense. Gruultron starts playing Blood Moon. It's possible. All right, so let's move on. I hope that was some useful feedback. But for the most part, the deck is solid. I mean, you're like, you said it was called 75% Tron. I would say it's like 95% Tron. I mean, that I could take that deck without any adjustments into a league, and I imagine you could still 5-0 with that sort of thing. So JZ1's decklist has been chosen. Modern, you've seen this before, but I update it with Cunning Nightbonder, which is great, but the sideboard needs some work now. So what does the sideboard need work in what direction? So we have a Fairy deck here. Fairy Seer, Cunning Nightbonder, Hypnotic Sprite, Spell Stutter, Brazen Borrower, Click, Mistbind Click, Elder Deep Fiend. Okay, cool. List is way more clean. Super clean list. 1 Gemstone Caverns. A lot of lands, too. 2 Mutavault, Oboro. You know what you could probably throw in here? Probably some of those... what's it called? Oops, sorry. We can't see it. You can now. Okay, so Fairy Seer, probably one of the only oddball in this list because does not have Flash, but whatever. Hypnotic Sprite, Spellstutter Sprite, Brazen Borrower, Vendilion Click, Mistbind Click, Elder Deep Fiend, Remand, Dismember. Very clean list. Gemstone Caverns. So I think you could live with like what's it called? Castle Vantress. I think you can afford to play some Castle Vantresses in this deck. You're heavy on blue mana, so it's very, very likely that this is going to be untapped. It's not going to be clunky. And the reason I suggest this is because you play at flash speed and you always have open mana up, you can freely scry at the end of turn. With 18 islands, you could probably play 4 Castle Vantress, at least 2. You're not going to be weak to Blood Moon or anything like that. You can very easily play 2 or something like that. That's fine. If you want to say 4, well, then we can still play it here. Minimum for me is 12. That's the minimum for me. So I think there's a lot of room to have at least 1 more utility land in here, and I think it would work really well in a deck like this that is playing mostly at flash speed. So if a turn goes by that you have nothing else to do, you just scry and put gas on top of your deck. Okay, that being said, you said you want help with the sideboard. Chalice of the Void, Tectonic Edge, Flusterstorm, Relic, Ether Gust, Negate, Dismember. Okay, so Tectonic Edge is so incredibly weak in today's modern metagame that's not even worth playing anymore. So I would just straight up dump this card. A card that you could replace in lieu of Tectonic Edge if you wanted to would be what's it called? Field of Ruin. That's an option. I would so Jays1, what is the purpose of Tectonic Edge? What decks are you trying to beat? Or are you trying to beat every single land deck with this? Yeah, I kind of forgot about Castle Vantress when I upped the island count for Cunning Nightbonder. Yeah, so you can definitely... this deck would not be a fan of Boyle, but they have a lot of counters. There's a decent chunk of counter spells in here. But you know what? Also, adding more Castle Vantress will make you less vulnerable to Boyle and Choke, for that matter. So with you in the chat, well, what is the Tectonic Edge for? So for like just automatically, I would say go to 4 Chalice of the Void because prowess is going to be a nightmare for you, and I think you really want to adjust to that nightmare. And it's, you know, it's something. It's better than nothing. You will win some games when you have a Chalice out. Tectonic Edge gives me a little bit of an extra edge against Tron and Field of the Dead. So I think particularly in this list, since you can't prevent Tron from ever happening because you don't have... well, that's not entirely true, actually. Mistbind Clique is a very good combo against Tron because you can click them at their upkeep, forcing them to tap all their mana, and they don't have any mana for the rest of the turn. So, like, and same thing with Elder Deep Fiend. So you actually don't have that bad of a game against Tron. But if you want to have... This isn't reliable because you have to wait for them to have 4 mana out, and you have... At least in Merfolk, we played Spreading Seas to slow them down. Then when they got to four lands, then we Tectonic Edge them. So those combined worked really well. And maybe you'll have the same... Maybe you actually have the same synergy because you play with, like, you play with the Mistbind Clique and the Elder Deep Fiend. So it just seems like it seems unreliable in 2020. If you really want it, play it. I would definitely go to 4 like... Our decks play very similar. Merfolk and this thing will have a lot of overlap. I would definitely go to... Well, okay, 3 is fine, but I might go to 4 Relic of Progenitus for the Uro decks, which are really problematic right now. Flusterstorm is just really bad. It's just that nobody plays this card because it doesn't interact with any deck at all. The cards that you want to beat right now are creatures and planeswalkers, and Flusterstorm doesn't hit either of those things. So the cards that you want... So I would just take these 2 cards out and add... That's where your 4th Relic and 4th Chalice can come from. 2 Aether Gust, 2... Well, there's got to be like a better card than Negate. I mean, you can play Negate. That's not the... What is Negate for? Maybe that's a good question. What is Negate for? I mean, it's a versatile card. You know what? I honestly, it's a versatile card. But what are the matchups you're definitely bringing Negate in for? Do you have any legendary creatures? You have some. There is some room, by the way, while you answer that question, to add a Minamo, School at Water's Edge. You do have 1 legendary creature in your deck. And again, it's like a non-island to protect you from Boil and Choke. Negate is for combo, Uro Piles, Tron, and some... I'm sure I'm forgetting. Okay, that's fine. It's fine. It just can't actually counter Uro itself. Or Snapcaster Mage, for that matter. Well, not every deck plays Snapcaster Mage. Okay, it's fine. You sold me. You sold me. And you got some Dismembers. That's okay, too. Okay, so I hope that clears up your sideboard, because you need to be more proactive with Chalice. I think Relic is good. And Aether Gust is actually a very good card right now. I'm going to test it today. And if you want Tectonic Edge... Well, if it's doing what you want it to do, that's great. If it's not, I would highly suggest Field of Ruin, which keeps your mana at the same parity, but also helps you force the exchange of the lands that you want to blow up. Whereas with Tectonic Edge, you have to wait for the 4 lands to enter the battlefield. And well, you may be able to get away with it because you play with Mistbind Clique, taps all their lands, so they never have access to all their lands anyway. And same thing with Elder Deep Fiend. So maybe you've got the synergy that you would like. So I hope that cleans up your sideboard. Definitely Flusterstorm is not well positioned at all. not even in the slightest. Simic Atlantis suggests Fairy Macabre. You know what? I think Relic is just better right now. Fairy Macabre can be good in a metagame that's really aggressive on the graveyard, but right now these Uro decks are a menace, and they're not that aggressive. They're just slow moving, like they just slowly accumulate cards, and Fairy Macabre is just card disadvantage. So they like play Uro, they draw a card, they gain the life, they put an extra land drop on the battlefield, then you're costing yourself a card to remove Uro from the graveyard. Relic is just better, because Relic will at least exchange 1 for 1 for what's in the graveyard, and you're not actually down on cards. Yeah, Relic is amazing right now. Relic is very good against the Uro decks. I play Relic and then they force negate it, you know you're in really good... You know you're doing something right when they do that. All right, let's keep the deck reviews coming. Bot's a little bit slow on picking something. Maybe it's just shuffling them up nice and randomly. So JZ1, hope that was valuable insight and advice, and good luck with the list. I'm curious to know how like Elder Deep Fiend is a fantastic card. It's just a fantastic card. I'm just go back to this list. Elder Deep Fiend is like, I don't want to say it's like a hidden gem, but like this is a card that definitely is underplayed and is very powerful. You can't Fatal Push this thing. You can't Dismember this thing. You can't Lightning Bolt it. It outclasses like virtually all the creatures in the metagame. Very, very strong. Very strong. It outmuscles most Tarmogoyfs. It's definitely definitely needs to be more decks brewed around that card. All right, we've got Ty Ice T's deck list. It has been chosen. It is Bant Control. And remember to show everybody the list. So 1 Snapcaster Mage, 4 Uro, 3 Teferi Time Reveler, Jace the Mind Sculptor, 2 Teferi Hero of Dominaria, 4 Path, 1 Spell Snare, 2 Ether Gust in the main deck. That's pretty aggressive, but it would be dead only to the Tron decks, I guess. Basically. But it's Ether Gust is increasing in popularity. Okay, whatever. We have main deck Ether Gust, 2 Growth Spiral, 2 Mana Lake, 2 Remand. Remand? Is that a card that's usually played in Control? I know it's played in a lot of tempo control deck. In Uro Control. Force and Negation, Cryptic Command, 1 Supreme Verdict, 3 Shark Typhoon. Very strong card right now, Shark Typhoon. Breeding Pool, Castle Vantress, Field of Ruin, Flooded Strand, Hollow Fountain, Prairie Stream, Forest, Island, Plains, Temple Garden. I can't really speak much to the mana base. I mean, looks fine. Looks like you've diversified things properly. Engineer Explosive, 2 Rejection, 2 Veil of Summer, 1 Ether Gust, Celestial Purge, Dovin's Veto, Ashiok, Narset, Timely Reinforcements, Supreme Verdict, and the Elder Gargaroth. I actually saw this card played against me. It feels like a second Uro, because whenever it attacks, it like gets this value, but it also gets the value if it blocks as well. So it's actually really damn good. I must go for a while. My family are over. If my deck is picked, El Rodeo San has tested it. All right, okay. Okay, so the only thing I don't know about is Remand. I'm not that proficient of a control player. Let's look at some Uro decks. Why don't I have this available to me immediately? Uro piles. 1 Remand. This is more of a Wall of Blossoms deck. Is this a... Thought it might be a Yorion deck. Okay, I want to see other lists. One Remand again. Like, Remand of all the spells is like the shit. Like, it's just the absolute crappiest of all the counter spells. And as we see, like, it's like a one of, and maybe more or less because it just wants to keep your opponent off. Like, they don't know what you could play. Maybe you have Remand, maybe you have Mana Leak. What do you want to play into? Remand is an Uro pile staple. Well, sort of. It's at a one of right here. You can Remand your own Uro in the mirror. I guess that's a thing. I would just play more Mana Leaks if you don't already have all 4. Well, I mean, thoughts on this over playing Field of the Dead? What do you mean by this? We don't have Field of the Dead here. I mean, you could definitely play it. I have nothing against that. maybe control players can say more about it. Like, for example, Field of the Dead is a super long game card, and how often do you reach the long game is the question. Like, it's probably not totally free because you can't, they have no way of tutoring for these lands, right? They have to naturally draw it and play it. Well, I don't know what to say. I see one remand here. And I'm always of the opinion that if it's a one of, it's a none of. At least with the Supreme Verdict, there's a second one there's probably a second one. There's not even a second one here in the sideboard. But they don't believe in Supreme Verdict? What's wrong with these Uro piles? What about 6th place? Emmanuel Control God. One remand again. All right, if that's how they do it, then that's how they do it. And this deck does have the extra Supreme Verdict in the sideboard, which makes sense to me. 2 Ether Gust. Okay, I have nothing to say. Solid list. Solid list. Got a little mishmash of everything. The 3 Shark Typhoon, very powerful card. Oh, this is like basically the late game card if you have a lot of mana, opposed to like Field of the Dead. I decided to split the remands and the growth spirals. Well, the growth spiral is what gets you, like, from what I hear, growth spiral is what helps you beat decks like Amulet Titan, because you can like growth spiral into more mana than they do and already have like Teferi Time Raveler by like turn 3. Or no, does that work? No, you won't have it by turn 3 because you don't have any mana dork on turn 1. But like you basically have a lot of mana out to work with. That's a good question then. How many of these versions are cutting? So everyone's all in on growth spiral. Okay, let's see how many growth spiral. Like I know this is like a super big staple of the deck. It's like maybe something that's uncuttable. Let's look at every deck. 3 growth spiral. All right, so there's some room to cut maybe 1. This is 4 growth spiral, but it's not banned. Okay, maybe I'll just exclusively look at the banned lists. McWin Sauce. 2 growth spiral. All right, there's room to cut it. This guy's really good. This is a very hardcore control player. Although went 3-2 in this preliminary. 6th place. 4 growth spiral. Modern Challenge. 22nd place by McWin Sauce. 2 growth spiral. Is there a correlation between how many growth spirals you have and like your win rate? 19th place. 2 growth spiral. You know, based on like the limited data that I see, and this totally might be results oriented, but the 4 growth spiral lists are clearly outperforming the 2 growth spiral lists. Not even close. They have way better results. This is a 5-0. 3 growth spiral. Like if you go up to 3 to 4 growth spiral, you're clearly crushing the other lists that are not. Dark Keeper 5-0. 3 growth spiral. Uh, 4-1 in a preliminary, not a 3-2. Oh, here's 2 growth spiral. That's not too bad. 4-1 is respectable in a preliminary. Very respectable. Sorry if this is moving really fast. 4-1. 4 growth spiral. Honestly, I don't see the need to play all 4 because mana is everything. And being able to like play Uro on turn 3 and hold up Mana Leak and Remand on the same turn on turn 3 is a big deal. Because you go turn 2 growth spiral, put a land on the battlefield. You have 3 lands now. And you can do it at end of turn. You're ramping at end of turn because your opponent doesn't necessarily have to do anything. And then on your next turn, you play your 4th land. You play Uro. You play another land. So you tapped out to draw a card and play a land, but you still have enough mana to play your Mana Leaks, to play your Ether Gusts, to play Remand. Well, whatever. Mana is power. I'll just say that mana is power in the metagame right now. And the more you can ramp, the more you can play spells while holding up interaction at the same time. I mean, even playing Growth Spiral at end of turn and then playing Teferi Time Reveler and protecting it with... because you'll ramp into 3 mana, then you play your 4th land for your turn, play Teferi Time Raveler, and protect it with, where is it? Path to Exile is a big deal. So ramp is actually very... I think it's important to the list. So I honestly would... I don't know what you want to cut. We see a lot of people are cutting down to 1 remand. I'd go to the 4 growth spirals, personally. If I were a Bant control player, and I based on this data, it clearly says anyone who's playing 4 growth spiral, and by the way, it might not be a correct causation here, but it does look like the main difference between the people who are winning way more than the other players are the fact that they're playing instant speed ramp at end of turn. That's what I'm looking at here. Am I the only person tired of seeing Uro? No, you're not, because there's a lot of people calling for its banning. Big time. The hidden value of Growth Spiral is having the choice of Counterspell or Growth Spiral spending on turn 2, regardless of what the opponent does. This is very true. And it's just a cantrip in general. Have you tried other card games like Legends of Runeterra? Absolutely not. I still have my love for Magic the Gathering. I'm not one of those Hearthstone traders, and now in the modern day Runeterra traders. It's okay. Those games look great, but I'm still more for these decks. So the overall list looks great, but when we analyze the metagame, or like the successful decks, the decks that are going 4-1, 5-0, pushing higher in the Modern Challenge, they're running 3 to 4 growth spirals. Simple as that. And if I were to be playing a Bant Uro control deck, I would go that direction. Now, a lot of other respected control players also went with 2 growth spirals, because there's really nothing else wrong with the list. You got like some really good stuff. I'd probably, in my opinion, I would... Yeah, you could do that. You could do that. So, like, how many of them were running Snapcaster Mage? Well, they had 1 Snapcaster Mage here. Okay, how many others? Where am I? No, this is yours, sorry. So I guess nobody's running Is no one running Snapcaster Mage? No Snapcaster. Again, no Snapcaster. Whereas 6th place, Emmanuel Control, no Snapcaster. Yep, you could go that direction. Cut the Snapcaster, and cut the Snapcaster, cut a remand, boom, 2 growth spirals, and you got what looks like a force to be reckoned with. Hope that was useful. And honestly, I learned something here. I personally learned that the growth spiral lists appear to be just outperforming all the other ones, and I can totally see why. You know, playing your Teferi Time Raveler and bouncing something and letting it die really sucks. But if you give yourself the option to growth spiral at end of turn, because let's say your opponent does nothing turn 1, you do nothing. Let's say you're on the play. I do nothing turn 1. Or sorry, you're on the play. You do nothing. My turn 1, I do nothing. Turn 2, you play land. Do nothing past the turn. I play land. I play creature. Next, you growth spiral at end of turn. Then you play a land on your turn, and you play Teferi Time Raveler. Bounce my creature. This is not a good example. Better example is I play something turn 1. I attack you. I play something turn 2. You ramp. Then you play Teferi Time Raveler, bounce 1 threat, but you have 1 land, 1 mana open to Path to Exile the other threat, and then keep the Teferi on the battlefield for the rest of the game, creating like a lot of problems for me. So even though I had a good start, turn 1 play, turn 2 play, growth spiral puts you far ahead. And I'm sure that if you're on the draw, this also works, because if I do nothing on turn 1, you play your land drop for turn 1. I play a 2 drop. You play your growth spiral turn 2. Or you play a land drop pass. I play a 3 drop. You play growth spiral. Next turn you play Teferi. Bounce my 3 drop. Path to Exile my 2 drop. Then you've protected your Teferi again. So you see what growth spiral can do for your deck. Anyway, so if anyone's still watching the stream, we are going to go into my gameplay. But for everyone on YouTube, that is going to be the stream for Coffee and MTG. So thank you very much for all the discussion, all the topics, all the deck lists that you have submitted. It was fantastic. We're going to be playing Simic Merfolk today, because it's the deck that I have just hands down the most success with it, one way or another. I feel like I'm getting unlucky with my matchups with the clunkier versions. That being said, Simic Merfolk can beat anything because it has an aggro game plan. But anyway, yeah, so if anyone's still going to be watching the stream, that's what we're going to do. But for Coffee and MTG, we're going to wrap it up. So thank you very much, everyone, for watching. If you want, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Do a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff on YouTube, and I'll see you at the next cut. So take care and see you next time.